Baldur's Gate 3 is Larian Studios' attempt to make Critical Role fans everywhere have to change their undies from overexcitement. And not to literally air out my dirty laundry, I had to go to the store and buy a pack of boxers because my washing machine couldn't handle the load.
Giggity.
The combat is awesome. The story is great. The different options you have to progress said story are numerous. And the visuals, Jesus H. Christ, the fucking visuals are downright beautiful. But the question is, do all of these individual accolades make a good video game? And to that I say, mostly. Larian Studios took the iconic TTRPG Dungeons & Dragons and tried to convert it into a video game. Taking something that really works in one form of media and transferring it to another is a monumental task that I think most people don't really appreciate. This is why most live-action anime adaptations fucking suck, because there are a bunch of wacky anime antics that just don't translate to live action. For example, this shit. BG3 suffers from a lot of these issues, and while it took me a while to get through this game, I still enjoyed it. I'm a huge D&D fan, and if you're a fan too, you will love this game. If you haven't played D&D, sorry dude, you're shit out of luck. D&D is complicated, and while Larian did an amazing job of dumbing it down and streamlining a bunch of the clusterfuck that is D&D combat, it is still a huge learning curve. Anyway, this game is full of surprises, starting from character creation. Genitals. Excuse me? I decided to go bard. Not your average sexual deviant bard, but a good, wholesome musician that just wants everybody to be happy. So of course, I did the only thing a classy gentleman like myself would do. This is Stumpfrey, and god damn is he beautiful. Now that I've got my class and equipment, and Stumpfrey has that python tucked in his boot so he doesn't step on it, the adventure begins. I meet a Githyanki lady who I thought was going to be pivotal to the story, but I never saw again. Freed everyone's least favorite love interest, Shadowheart, out of her flesh prison. Helped a mind flayer kill a demon, and crash landed on a beach somewhere. I headed out, found some people being attacked by goblins and gave them a hand. How did I know the goblins were the bad guys? Racism. After dispatching those filthy green murder munchkins, they let me into their grove, and told me the goblins took over a nearby city. Apparently, it was my job to go commit various war crimes on the rest of them. I went to the goblin camp and proceeded to get my ass kicked over and over and over again. By goblins. By a fucking owlbear. I couldn't win a single fight. After about the 5th time, I was pissed. But I knew I was doing something wrong. So, I retraced my steps, found Gale and Astarion, and proceeded to share my feelings with the goblins. And this kind of became the theme of my BG3 experience. The whole time I was playing, I constantly felt like I was doing something wrong or just missing something. I walked right past Astarion and Gale and wasted 2 hours banging my head against the brick wall that is trying to clear the goblin camp with 2 people. And if you're thinking to yourself, this dumbass just didn't explore enough, let me assure you, I painstakingly checked the map for every single spot I hadn't explored through the first 2 acts. I did not leave a stone unturned. I even cleared the Underdark, and then went back to the mountain pass and cleared that entire area, and you're really only supposed to do one or the other. But if you don't clear certain objectives by certain times, you just miss out on them completely. For instance, all the footage for this next tirade got corrupted, and I'm not going back and doing it all over again, sorry. There were a bunch of Duragar making all these gnomes that were apparently involuntary workers? Anyway, they were making them dig out this drow guy. So I threw a bomb, which cleared out all the rubble, and set free Faerun's third worst trust fund baby. He immediately was like, "Stupid involuntary workers, I was in there for a whole 5 minutes. The penalty for this is death." To which I said, "Absolutely not, asshole." And then him and his Duragar friends murdered me. A lot. I was dead set on being a good guy on my first playthrough, but no matter how hard I tried, I could not keep this fucking asshole from killing everybody. So I did the one thing I promised myself I wasn't going to do with this game. I looked up a guide. I found out that you can talk to these 2 Duragar and convince them to kill Captain Asshole. I went over to do just that, but the speech option was no longer available. So I did the only other option left available to me if I wanted to save those gnomes. I explored the rest of the dungeon and killed some shit to try to make myself stronger for the fight. But when I came back, the drow was dead, the gnomes were dead, and the Duragar had all left. Stuff like this just kept happening to me. I couldn't rescue the girl from the hag lady. I couldn't find the tiefling girl's parents no matter how hard I looked. She then left me a letter saying I thought you were going to help me and then left my fucking camp, so I'm pretty sure I had to talk to her when she was in my camp, which I'm sure I did. I think. I didn't cure the Underdark, so sexy bear guy got sad. I didn't even know I was supposed to be doing that, by the way. And the list goes on and on. I understand these time-sensitive objectives add a sense of realism to the game, but developers, please listen to me. Never let realism get in the way of fun, especially if it means the player is just going to miss out on content. And I know a lot of you are going to say, it's not Larian's fault, you just missed everything. To which I say, yeah, it kind of is. I'm not saying that the player should be spoon-fed everything, but playing through the whole game feeling like you're being cheated out of content is just not a good experience. And it's bad design. Will was the only other follower I found that wasn't named Astarion, Gale, or Shadowheart for the rest of the game. I was a bard, so my camp consisted of me, a wizard, a rogue, a cleric, and a warlock. So I played the whole fucking game without a frontline fighter. I know I could have switched any of their classes at any time, but I felt like just arbitrarily changing one of my party members' classes would mess with the theme of their characters and the overall authenticity of their story in general. I mean, look at Stumfree. He's way too pretty to be a barbarian. I made some concessions. I made Astarion a Ranger Rogue multi-class because I didn't think it would wreck his character arc, and I gave Stumfree 2 levels of Fey Warlock out of sheer desperation. Maybe this is all just bad luck. Maybe I just didn't look around enough. Either way, this along with some major pacing issues and bad mechanics made it really hard to finish this game. Speaking of bad game mechanics, if you're playing on PC, let me introduce you to the F5 key on your keyboard. This is your quick save button. Use it. Use it to the point where you have dreams about pressing it, because if you don't, you will have nightmares about not pressing it and losing 45 minutes of game progression. The autosave feature in this game is egregiously bad, like climbing up 90% of the mountain in Skyrim only to get murdered by the frost troll and having to start over bad. Moving on. One thing every RPG player knows is that in most games you will be spending a lot of time in your inventory, and inventory management in BG3 is a goddamn nightmare. Whoever thought items that can stack shouldn't do so automatically, I hope you stub your pinky toe every morning until you fix this shit. The combat is great most of the time. It is a very well-designed combat system. The AI is more than competent. If you have a squishy character that's concentrating on a spell, they will become an arrow magnet. So you better position them properly, or the battle will devolve into the Heal Gale simulator. And if you make dumb mistakes, the AI will teach you to never do that shit again. And while the AI in this game is really good, sometimes it felt like whoever was designing these battles was half asleep when they did it. Take this one for instance. When we start this one, my whole team's in a choke point. So I just put spike growth on the ground and run away. And because it's in a choke point, they have to pass through it in order to get to me. You might be thinking to yourself, I don't know, Geiger. They have a lot of archers, and they could just shoot over that shit. Your strategy seems flawed. And under normal circumstances, you would be correct. But watch me pull off this ingenious maneuver. Got him! Now let's talk about some pacing issues. I had a really hard time playing this game for anything longer than like an hour or two at a time. And it's for one reason, and one reason only. Long rests. Look, I understand why they put spell slots and long rests in the game. It's a mechanic that makes a whole lot of sense for D&D. It just doesn't translate well for a video game. Especially when you are forced to talk to your party members all the time. And the conversation can devolve into, buddy, I'm gonna fuck your brains out. Eventually. I know I'm not the only person that thought to themselves, God damn it, I have to take a long rest again every time they ran out of spell slots. Which was especially terrible for me because, again, 3 out of 4 of my party members heavily depended on them. And this even started to impact the story of my playthrough. Like I said earlier, I really wanted to be the good guy, but it felt like every time I had to nut up or shut up and be the good guy, I was ill-prepared for the fight that would ensue because I used all my spell slots in the 2 fights previous. And the only cure for that was to take long rests. It's like Larian was constantly making me flip a coin. Heads, you get fucked. Tails, you get fucked by 2 dicks. And being a therapist for your party is made even worse because your main character has no voice acting. Why did you make me choose a voice if I don't talk, Larian? How do I roleplay a witty bard that is also a mute, Larian? And why am I always putting my hands on my hips? Moving on. I picked Bard because I knew there was going to be a plethora of speech checks that would help me avoid a lot of trouble, and this was most definitely the case. But now I'm not so sure that was a good thing. There's a term in D&D. It's called murder hobo. If you're unfamiliar with the term, it's basically when your party wakes up every day and chooses violence, where every solution to every problem is wanton ass kickery, and like it or not, the game incentivizes you to play this way. How much XP did I get for passing that persuasion check? No idea, but not as much as I would have got if I was a murder hobo. Does that guy over there have some cool shit on him? No idea, but you know how you find out? Being a murder hobo. I know I sound like I'm just shitting on the game over and over, but let me be clear. This is a very good game. It is a breath of fresh air in the microtransaction hellscape that is modern gaming. Larian released a finished product with no subscription bullshit, no DLC skins, no loot boxes, none of that. And that makes this game S tier automatically. The combat system is amazing, and that says a lot coming from me. Not to be that guy, but I've played the classics of this genre. Final Fantasy Tactics on PS1, Fire Emblem on GameCube. This combat system had to be very good to impress me, and it delivered. The characters are incredibly well designed. Their motivations and decisions seem authentic, their backstories are intriguing and evoke emotion, and the amount of customization you have at your fingertips is ridiculous, and it's not Larian's fault I chose not to use any of it. My main criticism is that with a few tweaks, this game would have been a masterpiece, and it still is if you're looking at it as a D&D experience, just not as a video game. All in all, I'm giving this game an 8.5 out of 10. And honestly, I'm pretty sure if I played through it again, knowing what I know, the score would go up. I just can't force myself to do that at the moment.
Dude, you just spent the last 12 minutes shitting on the game. How do you give it an 8.5 out of 10?
I'll tell you how. Wait, no I won't.